Um, are we really live, Jennifer? So we need to behave? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we're just waiting for 2 members who plan to be here.
It's up to you, Jill.
I think so. Oh, Jennifer, does that mean you have to hang on? Or is that too much?
Let's do this offline, Ann. Let's not do it. Okay, we're still not live yet. On YouTube it says we'll begin shortly.
Okay.
But I texted her and chatted with her, so Jennifer, are we live?
Okay, go ahead. It says in the text. She chatted back. All right.
Jennifer?
Better check.
Jennifer? Jennifer, just let us know when we're live.
Janet, I see a message from Jennifer in the chat, but does that mean that everything's working YouTube as well?
Yeah, well, except when I go to YouTube, it says we'll begin shortly. It doesn't, but maybe she's taping it. Jennifer?
What happened? Where did I go?
Okay, Jennifer's checking YouTube now because I seem to be, when I go to YouTube, I don't see it.
Okay.
It says we'll begin shortly. So she's looking at it right now.
Okay.
Maybe I'm not on the cable channels to see what's going on, but I think you can probably start, Jill.
Okay, all right. The meeting will come to order. This is Chair of the Library Board, and I'd like to welcome you to the virtual January 20th meeting at the library. Public meetings is likely to increase the risk of COVID-19. This meeting is being conducted in accordance with Governor Lamont's Executive Order Number 7B as extended by Executive Order Number 9L, which permits municipalities to conduct public meetings virtually. Board members and some library staff are participating via video conferencing, and members of the public can view the meeting live on West Hartford Community Television or on West Hartford Community Interactive Comcast Channel 96 and Frontier TV Channel 6099 or at www.whctv.org. This meeting information is also being recorded for on-demand viewing subsequently and will be available on the town and the library's websites subsequent to the meeting. Because of the virtual format, there are some special rules and procedures that we need to cover before we begin. First, all participants will please mute their devices when you're not speaking. If you wish to be recognized, please raise your hand and I'll call on you. If you're participating via audio only and I do not call on you and the debate for any of our motions has ended, then please unmute your phone yourself and let us know so that we can recognize you. Second, pursuant to Governor Lamont's executive orders, all speakers must state their name and their title each time they speak. Third, because of the difficulty in tallying votes, Ann Donovan.
Ann Donovan, library board member here.
Kim Cohen. We note that Kim Cohen is absent. Jill Spear, library board chair, present. We also have in attendance at the meeting show Carol Waxman, acting library director, and Janet Valensis, a library board host for this evening's program. Thank you. All right. Okay. Meeting is called to order. Our first agenda item is approval of the consent agenda items 3, 7AI, 7AII. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
A motion from Gail Crockett and a second from Ann Donovan. Then I'll take the roll call to confirm. Gail Crockett?
Gail Crockett, library board member, approved.
Ann Donovan?
Ann Donovan, library board member, approved.
Jill Spear, library board member, approved. We have approval of the consent agenda. Our next agenda item is the chair's report. I would like to report that we are pleased that our board member David Brandwine has accepted the second term to serve on the library board, and as of January he is starting his second of 2 5-year terms. So we thank him for his service. And that's the end of the chair's report. Our next agenda item is old business, which is the second quarter library statistics. The library, I call on acting library director, Carol Waxman.
Good evening. This is Carol Waxman, acting library director. During the start of the pandemic, the rise in patrons using e-media was very strong. Libraries were completely closed for a few months, and the only way that patrons could access materials was by using their library card to access digital resources such as Hoopla and Libby. Our patrons were desperate to read and would learn new skills to make this happen. As curbside service opened, and we all know how much our patrons enjoy using this service as well as browsing inside our buildings, the circulation statistics for physical materials rose, with e-format declining slightly. However, patrons who had never used e-format materials previously now have the ability to do so and enjoy using this format. A new routine has been formed. We expect that there might be a flattening of the curve between these formats, with patrons accessing both physical and e-format now and in the future. Even before the pandemic, we observed a decline in patrons using physical media, such as DVDs, audiobooks, and music. Many people use their computers, phones, tablets, and smart TV and other devices to access movies, books, and music.
Thank you, Carol. Any questions from the board members? Moving on to new business. The first item under new business is the fiscal year 22 budget request. The chair recognizes Acting Director Carol Waxman.
Thank you, Jill. Our fiscal year 21 budget was reduced by $101,000 due to COVID, resulting in a budget of $3.3 million. Our fiscal year 22 budget reflects this reduction. Once the pandemic is over and we are back to full operation in the 3 library buildings, we will have to make some minor reductions in services to compensate for the permanent loss of these funds. In November 2020, town departments were notified by the Department of Financial Services that they were expecting an operating deficit of about $1.5 million for the current fiscal year. In order to mitigate the shortfall, all town departments were asked to give back funds. For the library, this amount was $33,000. The budget has been revised to reflect this decrease. This reduction will not be carried over to fiscal year 22. Our year-end projection estimate is a surplus of $100,000 beyond the $33,000 give back described. Since we have been open fewer hours than previously due to COVID, we have not had to use all of our part-time staff budget, leading to a projected surplus for fiscal 21. Neither of these reductions will be carried over to the next fiscal year. The Department of Library Services budget was submitted to the Department of Financial Services on January 5th, 2021. We were instructed to and complied with submitting a budget that was identical to the fiscal year 21 adopted budget and to request changes by exception only. I met with the town manager to discuss the budget. Joe Cadou's position as Librarian 3 for Programs and Publicity will not be filled this fiscal year. Agatha Monahan's position as Librarian 3 for Adult Services will be filled as soon as possible. The Library Director position will also be filled. The Department of Financial Services commended the library on submitting a compliant budget. Although we submitted the budget as requested, there will still be an increase due to union contractual obligations and merit increases for eligible employees. As for the fiscal year 2022 goals and objectives submitted with the fiscal year 22 budget, a few examples included are to operationalize the current strategic plan with special focus on spot renovations of physical spaces and fulfillment of acoustical study recommendations. To expand business services for patrons to include support with new business startup, resume writing, and employment searches. To review options for smart lockers. These are a combination of individual storage containers, electronic smart lock hardware, and identification hardware and software applications for managing patron access to materials outside of library buildings when library buildings are closed. To establish a West Hartford Teen Youth Council for teens to learn about government, complete community service projects, and identify and address issues important to teens. And to recognize the need to support diversity, inclusion, and equity in West Hartford by initiating the Year of All of Us, an initiative to recognize and celebrate our diverse community. Lobby pickup services with staff availability by phone and email. Many libraries have opened and closed several times for weeks at a time due to staff virus breakouts, lack of staff available to work due to family quarantine, or by the fact that town managers have closed all public buildings. We are fortunate that we have not had to close our buildings or to remove hours and services other than the removal of evening hours since our phased reopening process began. As the vaccine rollout begins and continues, we will assess adding hours to each building. All town employees, both full and part-time, will be able to receive doses of the COVID-19 vaccine as part of a West Hartford Bloomfield Health District plan. All employees have been polled, and their decision to take part in this initiative is noted and sent to the town. There has been no date set to, as yet, when this will happen. A new book drop has been purchased and installed, necessary due to the fact that the interior of the former book drop was rusted and pieces of the bottom interior had broken off, leaving jagged edges inside, making it very difficult to maneuver the inside depressible unit. The new book drop is larger, holding 350 items instead of 150, alleviating the problem of staff needing to empty it on holidays and Sundays when the library is closed. It can also roll over the cobblestone walkway without losing any wheels, as was the case with the former book drop. The fourth annual Kindness Project will end on January 31st. To date, we have made deliveries of about 60 large cartons of hygiene products collected at curbside in the 3 library buildings and donated by members of the public to the West Hartford Food Pantry and Universalist Church. This has been by far the most robust collection of products as yet. The community has responded with great generosity. We have been asked by the West Hartford Prevention Council, a town council appointed commission, to host library programs in May for Mental Health Month. We will collaborate to offer a series of programs for parents, teens, and adults on topics related to the pandemic, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and others. Library program continues for children, teens, and adults, virtually, of course. For children in January, we offered preschool music classes and a visit with 5 ambassador animals from the Zoo and Forest Park. For teens, a digital chess club, and one will start for children in February. And for adults, the truth about Medicaid rules and long-term care costs, New England virtual legends, and travels in Chilean Patagonia. We have begun a study to use smart lockers, a system that will allow patrons the flexibility to pick up holds from a locker outside the library building. Patrons would be able to pick up their holds even when the library is closed. A smart locker is a combination of individual storage containers, electronic smart lock hardware and identification hardware, and software applications for managing access. There is a pandemic-driven demand for contactless interactions. The implementation and integration of this system would be a factor in deciding how services will be delivered post-pandemic. It is far simpler for patrons to pick up items totally at their convenience, safely, and securely. It is expected that curbside service will be in place post-pandemic and into the future. Our patrons have become accustomed to the convenience of curbside pickup, and we have received many accolades about this service. Overall, we have booked more than 23,000 curbside appointments via this delivery method since the beginning of June 2020. With the installation of smart lockers outside of the library buildings, patrons would continue to place items on hold, either through the online catalog or by calling the library and speaking to a staff member. Once the requested item is available for pickup, items would be placed in the smart lockers outside of the buildings for pickup at the convenience of the patron. The lockers can eventually be installed at all 3 West Hartford locations, with the one at Bishop's Corner being the first to use as a prototype, and so that we can review the success of the project before expanding it to other library buildings. The Smart Locker Committee has met with Town Planner Todd Dumais and Zoning Officer Brian Pudlick to appraise the installation at the Bishop's Corner branch. Agatha Monahan, our Adult Services Librarian, retired on January 22nd. Aggie began her service with the West Hartford Libraries in 1999, working part-time at the Faxon Branch Library. In 2005, she was hired as a full-time reference librarian to work at the Noah Webster Library. She oversaw the acquisitions of 8 subject selectors, launched the Reader's Advisory North Roundtable for the Connecticut Library Consortium, and began the selection of the new e-book collection for the library. In 2015, Aggie was selected to become a librarian too, and began management of the local history room and collection. She assisted in the Memories of Migration grant led by teen librarian Carrie Karp, responsible for archiving pictures and interviews obtained from the participants on the library's history pin site. Aggie was awarded a grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Science and the Internet Archive for the West Hartford Library to be a participant in the Community Webs program in 2017. The goal of the grant was to provide librarians the ability to preserve local records from online news, local blogs, and social media in order to preserve them for future generations. From 2019 to the present, Aggie has served as the Librarian 3 Adult Services Librarian. She managed the task of library staff assuming responsibility for answering all calls to the Town of West Hartford offices, as well as calls to the library, a massive undertaking with thousands of phone calls from a very worried and very frustrated public. We are grateful for Aggie's diligence, positive work ethic, her leadership and teamwork skills, attention to detail, and her ability to use an analytical approach. She is one who thinks, studies, creates Excel sheets and lists, and is always prepared to solve problems and manage solutions. Most important of all, she is a co-worker who cares about all of the staff, is always positive and friendly, and has shown a genuine love of her library career. Our recruitment for this position is in place, with interviews being held later this week. Even though we are thankfully at the beginning of the vaccine rollout, we know that it will be a long time before we can encourage groups of people to enter our buildings for programming. Celebrate West Hartford has been canceled and will be rescheduled for June 2022. The Hartford Foundation for Giving has given permission to delay Faxon Fun, a program held in the summer at the Faxon Branch Library for Children, until the summer of 2022 due to COVID. With the funds granted to us still in place and permission to use a portion of these funds for whatever is deemed necessary to reach out to children in need this coming summer. Last year, we repurposed $500 of the $5,000 grant to purchase new paperback books and distribute these to families at the grab-and-go lunch sites in town. Until it is deemed that we are safe to gather together, we will continue a robust schedule of virtual programming, contactless service, browsing and computer appointments, and our greeter stations. We will maintain all safety protocol in all buildings, mask requirements, social distancing, and plexiglass workstations. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Everyone's been very busy this month.
Yes.
Any questions for Gail? Ann, do you have any questions about any of the items? Chair recognizes Ann Donovan.
Ann Donovan, Library Board. Carol, thank you so much for, as usual, such a fantastic report to us. First off, we are going to miss Aggie. Thank her, for her service and her dedication all these years. She will be missed. I had a question. First of all, on the curbside pickup, I have to thank the library staff for being so flexible, because you can phone the library and within 15 minutes, like if I'm leaving work and I get an email that my book has come in, within that 15-minute allotted windows that they have, I can just go right on over and it's there waiting for me. So thank you. That's been great. And I had a question about the lockers, the smart locks. Is that like individual lockers, almost like if you go to the post office and you pick up your mail, or is it just one big locker? I'm not following that.
Of course, Ann. Carol Waxman, Acting Library Director. Think of a package concierge. Think of an Amazon locker, a series of small units, and your books are in their own unit. Nobody can see them. Nobody can touch them. We fill them from the back or the front. We're not sure yet.
Okay.
We're still looking at options. A private little box just for you. Yes. We have a lot of work still to do. We're studying all of the vendors, and we have our technical services librarian and our committee helping us to decide which model might be best. We're still working with the town on zoning, and because it's an outside unit. So there's lots to consider, but we are very excited about this project. And thank you very much for all of your compliments to Aggie. I will make sure to tell her.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
Chair recognizes Gail Crockett. Gail, I think you're still on mute.
Let me get,
Got it.
okay. So first of all, it's always good to see you and to hear your reports because they are so thorough. Ann answered part one of my question about the lockers. So since they're outside, are there any like safety issues that are being addressed? I mean, I'm trying to understand, like, could they easily be broken into and therefore items stolen or damaged or what?
Of course. We understand that completely. First of all, there'll be adequate lighting outside, so everybody will be in a well-lit area. They will be smart, so you can only open them with whatever device you have, whether you're going to be putting in a code, whether you're going to be using your phone with a code on it. We have a lot of criterion still to study. So, but everything will be very safe because no one can get into it unless they have a particular device or code to get into it. But we will be studying this and giving you a whole lot more information as we proceed through the process. There are many models, many designs. We will hopefully choose the one that's best for staff and patrons to use.
Chair recognizes Gail Crockett. Yeah.
Yes, follow-up. So are these in use somewhere in Connecticut at a library near us, or I mean, are we the first ones to embark on this endeavor? No. But I mean in Connecticut or Greater Hartford.
Gail, many libraries have some type of, I'm going to call them remote lockers because not all of them are smart lockers using technology. Some are basically the old gym lockers that we remember, but to put your gym gear in, just little small units outside of the building. but we're hoping to make them available so that you can use your own technology to open your little cubby locker. But hopefully in the coming months, we'll show pictures and we will describe when we choose some that will meet our needs, we will describe them and show you samples and everybody will see what we're thinking about.
Gail Crockett, Library Board member again. Specifically, I wanted to know if there are any in use at any library here in this state now. And do you know what towns?
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't answer your question fully. I am not sure about that, Gail, but we will
Okay.
definitely have an answer for you. We will get an answer
Okay.
to you.
Jill Spear, Library Board Chair. Gail, there's a whole committee that Carol has looking into this with a whole set of criteria from security to privacy to just zoning, all those kind of heating, what kind of material can be in there.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of criteria. They've been used in libraries across the country for at least 2 or 3 years, and they've gotten smarter and smarter, and they can work with Jen to send out more information to the board for that. But Carol's committee, which actually found the volunteers, is going to include some people from the public that are interested in participating in the select, in helping and advising. But clearly we have to work with the town. Carol's working with the town on all this sort of things because it's an outside thing. I think it's very exciting. It's one of the things that was mentioned by our previous director, Martha. It was sort of an exit discussion. She said, oh, by the way, some of the library staff is thinking about these smart lockers. And with the pandemic, it took a while to roll around to get us there. But I think it's extremely exciting. It really provides, it's really like Amazon lockers. And I don't know if I've ever seen an Amazon locker external to a building, but they can be if they're, heated or whatever that, or cool or whatever that sort of thing is. So they're basically, Carol's team is doing all the due diligence with legal requirements and, everything you can imagine. So Carol, perhaps we could send out some more information to the board beforehand because it's almost too much to go through it on a board meeting. But that's the game plan. And I think the other thing to really point out is that they're not only doing due diligence with the town and the selection criteria, but also the rollout plan is to get, a beta test it. one location, let's work out any kinks because it's not just the physical plant of it. It'll be different with each of the buildings and their connections because there's lighting, there's wiring, there's all those things, but also procedurally for the library to work out any kinks that they want to try out with their procedures. So the game plan is to start with one, and then there's the secondary issue is going to be funding for them. They're not cheap, but it's like having, in a way, it's like having a new library branch. In a way, I'm thinking of it as like a little mini library branch that you can just receive. You can't browse in it, but you can do all your browsing online between all your devices and your communications electronically. It's like having like a baby library. That's how I'm thinking of it. So Carol, you wanted to comment?
Yes, if I can make just one more comment about this too, that there are many people who work third shift and can't come during the day and can't come at night. They can't come on Saturday because they have a religious holiday on Saturday. They can't come on Sunday for whatever reason that is. And this way they can come whenever they want. 24 hours a day, like the all-night gym or whatever you do for 24 all-night drugstore. So it's patron convenience too. But we'll have lots more to tell as we study more.
Right. So it's like having the building open for a pickup service, but without having to have the staff there synchronous in the same time period. So in a way, it's a cost saving. You get the service without having a physical librarian there, to hand you and check it out. So it's, in a way, it's not just customer service, as Carol said, which is the biggest thing, but it's, in a way, it's cost saving as well. So it's pretty cool. I'm excited about it. I know the library staff is. All right. Gail, did you have any other questions on any of the other agenda items?
No, I didn't mean to be, negative. I just was curious about what had gone into, getting to this point, just a little bit more meat and potatoes. And so Carol addressed that as well as you. So I'm fine. I think it's a great idea. I just was curious about some of the.
Well, I think I want to make, based on that comment, Gail, make one more comment then. This isn't a done deed, as Carol, it may have gotten buried in what Carol was saying, because she gives us a lot of great information. They're investigating this. They're investigating it. It has to pass all the requirements of the selection criteria that Carol mentioned through the town. We're very optimistic, Carol, correct? Right.
Yes, yes.
We're optimistic, but it has to go through all the right steps. So this isn't a done, and then we have to get funding. So it's not a done deed. It's a very exciting endeavor that the library is investigating, and we're very optimistic. Okay.
And it's something to be excited about post-pandemic, because we need lots of good things in our lives.
Carol, I have recognized myself, Jill Spear, Library Board Chair. I wondered if you would be so kind as to, again, well, first I want to thank you for all the report was very comprehensive, but in particular, I wanted to thank you for the Kindness Project. I think it's a wonderful project you've done in multiple years, but this year in particular, the need is so vast. I think it's just been wonderful. And I wondered if you would reiterate the date.
Yes. Well, it ends on January 31st, but certainly if anybody brings anything at any time, it's welcome. We will take it and get it to the food pantry. And I'd also like to mention that this will be is going to be a national model as a Kindness Project goes national to some of the groups that I'm associated with across the country that deal with school lunches, library lunches, excuse me, and all kinds of community service projects. They asked for us to send them a PowerPoint model so that they can send it out to librarians across the country to follow. So thank you, Jill, and I'm very excited about the future of this.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
Well, if there are no other questions, that's our last agenda item for the evening. Any other questions? And I just want to make note then before we close that our next scheduled meeting is on February the 22nd. Janet keeps me honest because occasionally we move the meeting. So February 22nd. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Chair recognizes Gail Crockett. Do we have a second? Chair recognizes Ann Donovan. Oh, I'm sorry, Gail. Did everybody hear Gail?
I didn't speak, but I raised my hand.
I'm hearing my own echo here. Sorry, Gail. So Gail.
I moved that motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. Chair, and do I have a second? Chair recognizes Ann Donovan.
Ann Donovan, Library Board Member, second to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, and I'll now take the vote. Gail Crockett.
Aye.
Ann Donovan.
Ann Donovan, Library Board Member, yes.
And Jill Spear, Library Board Chair, yes. The meeting's adjourned at 7:14. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Take care.